Today, we are going to be getting this engine, this 2.5 liter single overhead cam Subaru engine, back. Been here all summer. None of this was expected. I had no idea that I was going to blow up an engine and need to make such a huge mess. I'm fighting for space here. I was going to probably just do this outside so I didn't have to move any of this because it's really just me here and this is big and heavy and I don't want to break it. But it's raining all week and I have to get this done because we have so much on the books. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to move this, whatever it is, without breaking it. We got a few things to do before I can get this engine back into the car. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take this dipstick that I had to pull out the other day and we're gonna push it back into here. We're gonna put our hoses that we got back from the store yesterday. I'm gonna leave this oil filter on here while we're installing it because I don't wanna ding up or damage the new one. I gotta pull all of these towels or shop rides out of the exhaust ports. I have a rear main seal that I got to replace, but I have to pull this off after I get the engine on that hoist over there. You can watch the last video and you can see everything that we did to this thing. Yeah, I guess get to work. This dipstick I can already tell is gonna be fun. These things are never as easy as you think they are to get in. Watch this thing just go right together. I noticed this in my last video. I'm always holding the glove for my camera hand in my other hand, and it's just silly. I'm just always holding the glove like some kind of security blanket in my video. Yeah, that's gonna need more than one elbow. Okay, let me get this thing in. Let me get this hose on. Let me go around the rest of the motor. We'll flip it around, probably pull the intake manifold off of it, and we'll get it ready for the hoist. And then once we're on the hoist, I gotta figure out all of this stuff so I can pull a car in here. So I got the hose on. You gotta be kind of careful. I don't want to use the old clamps, but these screw clamps, you gotta be pretty smart about where you place them because it's kind of a pain to get at. And I'm definitely glad that I did this while I was on a stand and not while I was in the vehicle. Getting this dipstick tube back in here is a small act of courage. I ended up finding an 11mm wrench that fit perfectly. Basically, I just put it right there, and there's like a little nub, and I was able to kind of smack it with a hammer until it went in. And then I was able to come in here and kind of just do the same and smack it in. I think the O-ring maybe got a little nick right here, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some silicone, and I'm just going to silicone this thing in to make sure that we don't have any leaks, because that's the last thing I want after I spend this much time and energy on this thing, to have a leak from the dipstick that I got to come back and fix once it's in the car. It is not easy to get you in the car. It's time to start getting this thing lifted up. I want to get the intake manifold off of it, and we can start getting it ready for the car here this afternoon. We have gotten a lot done. I pulled the tray picker out of the corner like I said I was going to. I got the intake manifold off. It's pretty simple. I got an auto leveler on here. It makes it really easy for installing an engine. You'll see I got us off of the engine stand. I love this engine because it's literally just like, again, 14mm bolts for all of this. Pulled it all apart, and I'm really glad I did. I bought a new seal for the back of this motor, and you can see here where it's been leaking right out of the bottom. So if I'd have just put this thing in here without doing anything, I'd have just, I'd have been a leaky mess, and now I don't have to do that. So we're gonna take this seal out, and we're gonna replace it with a fresh seal. I'm gonna put the flywheel back on, and then I'm gonna open up this garage door, and we're gonna start, feeding it into a car. Here's what I did. I was demonstrating this earlier with the front crankshaft seal, but here's your seal puller. You gotta be really careful with this because this hole is actually deeper than the seal is. You gotta be careful you're not scoring anything in here. I got this pounded in, and I was able to just work it out like that. You see in there. What you don't want is any kind of scoring on the metal of the race area. So I got a couple of dings back there, and that's going to be okay. I'm just going to clean it out with a rag. You can see there's no scoring on the sidewall, so we're okay there. I'm going to clean this out with a rag, and we're going to get the new seal in there. So you just got to take this slow and easy, and don't hammer on it too hard. I was taking it really easy on here because I know you can do a lot of damage if you're not careful. Let's get the new seal, get that tapped in there, and I'll show you how to do that because you have to be really careful with this too because you can over tap that seal and ruin it. Ask me how I know. Here's the new seal. You can see it's the same as the front, it's just a little bit bigger in diameter. It's the same thing. You really don't want to nick or cut or damage any part of the seal, and because it's bigger, it's actually a little bit harder to put in. I don't have a seal installer kit. I probably should. We'll work with what we got here. So we're gonna just douse this in a healthy amount of oil here. Now you can go get seal installers and rent them from auto parts stores, and that's a thing. If you know what you're doing, you can usually get them in without damaging them, usually. And of course, if you mess it up, all you have to do to fix it is completely remove the engine, so it's not like there's any pressure. I'm just gonna go ahead and set this in here, and we're gonna get it slowly worked around by tapping it in with a brick of wood, and I'm just gonna take my time and we're gonna slowly get this thing worked in here until it's nice and flush. So I'll come back when we get it all done. Okay, we got it in, the seal in. It's, here I am with a glove in my hand again. It's nice and flush all the way around. You want to make sure that is. You also don't want to push it in too far. You can do that. If you push it in too far, the only way to get it out is to ruin it and go buy a new one and start all over again. So I can take the flywheel. You can see I just use this block of wood, and I would get it in here like so, and I just lightly tap on it with a hammer as I worked it all the way around the world. Found all the high spots, knocked them back flush, and just take it really easy. You don't want to just hammer on this with anything because you will damage that seal again. So let's get the flywheel on it, and then we're gonna get this garage door open and, you know, all the rest. We have Audrey's car in here. I don't have enough room to get it all the way in here. We're working with what we have. I'll end up rolling it out of here at the end of the day. We got the battery in here so I could roll down a window so we can push it in. I have 2 batteries for it. This one's at 11.9 volts. The other one's at 12.5 almost. So we're going to charge this one up first, and I'm going to charge up the other one, and whichever one is a better battery at the end of all that is the one that we'll put in here. I have made a giant mess in here this summer, and I'm looking forward to cleaning it up. Finally. Just going to charge up while we work on it. That out of the way. We might go pick up some new belts here. I mean, I went through the trouble of replacing everything else new, right? We gotta get everything out of the way so this engine can slide in here peacefully. If that's a thing that we can strive for. We have everything from throttle cables to exhaust to transmission cooler lines. The idea is that we're going to be able to get a jack underneath the transmission so I can raise this, lower this up a little bit as needed. We're going to lower this in. This is an auto leveler so I can tilt the engine as needed, and we're going to take everything nice and easy and get everything all lined up. Should pop together, should. And once you get this all mated together, everything else is just, it's like a Lego game. Plugging stuff back in, basically. I do not have new exhaust manifold gaskets, I don't think. That's one thing I think I didn't get.
Are we going to the store?
Not yet. We're gonna get this thing in here first. I can get those exhaust gaskets in after I have everything mounted, so, and that's probably what I'll do. So for now, we're gonna start raising this up and getting it lowered in here. And the transmission go up pretty far to get into where it's going too. Be patient with this thing. Little chunks of wood like this are really great because it distributes the weight evenly, so you don't end up putting a dent or a hole in the bottom of the transmission pan or an oil pan. If I had more room in this garage, I'd probably put the car on some stands, lift it up a little bit. It would make this part a little easier. Who wants to do everything easy? I have the transmission weight supported with the jack underneath. This is your torque converter. This is what's responsible when you pull up to a stoplight from separating the engine from the wheels on an automatic transmission. I'm just trying to make sure that this is all the way seated in this bell housing. Sometimes when you pull these engines and transmissions apart, these things will tend to want to pop forward a little bit, and especially because this mount right here broke, so this thing was sitting a little bit lower than I would like it to in this bay. What I'm doing right now is I'm just twisting it while pushing pressure on it, so that if it were out at all, I'd be able to, one, feel it, and two, if it was out at all, you'd feel it just kind of click into place. That actually feels really good, so I think we're clear there. This is kind of the most precarious part. You just gotta take your time, steady the engine whenever you're making sudden movements, because this thing is a pendulum up here, and it's like a 400-pound pendulum. There's severe consequences for dropping this. I've done more than a few.
You're gonna hit the tire on this side?
Yep. Take slow, easy movements. You don't want to try and rush anything here. And you can see I'm not trying to move everything from back here. I'm actually trying to use this engine weight to push and control how far back I'm getting this. And you can see right here, we're almost up against the hood. I love about Subarus is it you get those things popped up pretty dang high, and so now you can see we're in here, man. We're getting there. So we're gonna start very slowly.
That's falling.
What's falling?
Over here. This is crap.
Let's bring it down, make it easy. I have the front, I left the front crankshaft pulley off too because it just takes a little bit extra off the front of this motor and makes it easier to get together. And then once it's all in here, then I can do that kind of stuff. There's a relief valve on here, this is all hydraulic. You don't want to just unscrew this thing super fast. See, there's a valve over here I'm turning, I don't know if you can see it, but I got a pair of vice grips on it. And as I turn it slow, you can see what's starting to come down now. So you lower it, and you stop and see where you're at.
Not too far, yeah.
See how slowly I'm moving right here?
And you're gonna hit these hoses right there. Yeah.
Sort of feeding it in here. This part will be an anchor back, kind of helps out. I got the two bottom studs into the transmission and eject the transmission up quite a bit, and then I have the motor with the weight shifted all the way forward, so the back is slanted down. And so what I'm just trying to do right now is just slowly get this together. This part is just a process of muscle and just practice. And the more of these you do, the better you get at. I remember the first engine I ever think I tried to do, I hosed up pretty good. Okay, that is just about there. Just that level out some of this weight. You can see how it's starting to come up together, just me transferring the weight a little bit. And I'll do that with the transmission too. I'll let the weight on the transmission down a little bit, and it's together on the bottom, so what you'll see is it's kind of full together. Let me know when you start seeing it come down.
Oh.
That's what I was talking about. I might be able to get a bolt started in there. Now I gotta find some transmission bolts. So I did that dumb mechanic thing when I got done with all this, because I was working on so many of these projects. I just threw all the bolts in a bag. And now I'm like, oh come, I can't find everything again. Like a rube. It's the top starter bolts. There's a bunch of stuff down there. It's really hard to get to in there. Yep, I remember now. So come back. I'm gonna get a bolt in there. We got this in here and mounted. I got all the bolts in here tight and fastened into the engine. While I was doing it, kind of slid down. I think it's on the mounts. Let's see. Yeah. So you can see the studs through on that side, so it's down. I just gotta find the washer and a nut for it. I just got this last transmission mount in there. I broken the last one when I pulled this out, but luckily I had a whole spare car with a whole spare mount, so I was able to just pull that out and use this. I have the bottom mounts on. We're gonna go ahead and drop this down so that I can pull this guy out of here. This is nice, it's got a safety on it, so you can't really pull that off unless you really want to. Pull that out. There we go. There she goes. We're out. This thing's on. I can start putting all the stuff that makes it an engine back together. We got the crankshaft pulley on. Again, there's a keyway. It only goes on one way, so just be patient with that. You can see back here, I have the torque converter that I need to line up with the flex plate. Oh, the torque converter moving too? It is. Okay. I gotta get a screwdriver and figure out how to move the torque converter because it's tight enough in here, it's moving both of them. I should have probably done this before I got the transmission tight, but I didn't. And yeah, trying to get this intake manifold ready to go back down. I had two of everything, a lot of this stuff, because I took a lot of the stuff off of Audrey's old motor that was blown. So all the good stuff that was salvageable I took off. So I was able to choose between the two intake manifolds, which one I wanted better. So I'm just cleaning this surface off. I've already got the engine surface pretty clean. And we're gonna put some gaskets down, get this all settled in. And then I'll probably call it a night when I get the exhaust manifolds together, seal the engine up, and then we'll come back to this here in a day or two and we'll finish it up.
I'm so excited to drive this again. Every car that I've driven since doesn't feel right.
See, I got the new gaskets down. Here's a PCV valve that is movable. I also have these two hoses right here, which are really important that you get hooked up and you don't forget about, because these are going into coolant passages, this one, and this one is going into also a cooling passage. So yeah, we want to get those connected to the corresponding locations here on the back of the intake manifold. You can see 1 and 2 spaces for them. I got all these surfaces cleaned up roughly. It's not the best in the world, but it doesn't have to be. As long as you got a nice smooth mating surface, you know, gouge that. I'll give you guys an idea. Just want to give you guys an idea of the chaos that's been going on here this week. My pile of stuff that I've been using, and trays of tools and parts everywhere, mixed in with wood projects, and I got belts hanging there, and got this all bottled up. I'm ready to push this thing in again and start working on it. Oh god, because we got an engine that's been installed. Hell yeah. Let's do this. So we're back outside because I had to emergency run and go take this RV. Of course, there's someone coming right now. Both ways. Both of them loud as hell. I had to quick hurry up and break this RV down, and we had to take it to go dump because we were over full on our black tank. Today has been all the rain that yesterday said it was going to bring. It's like it decided to wait until today. Anyway, look at this. It looks like it could almost start right now, right? It's pretty complete. I got the wiring harness all plugged in back here. I got everything kind of plugged in. I got the coils not in yet. Got the alternator, power steering pump, air conditioning compressor in. Got all that in. Got the belts tightened. The thermostat housing on down there. I couldn't get this line to go in with the dam, so I went and bought 9 feet of transmission hose. So we're just gonna make our own. For whatever reason, the Forester does not run like the Outback and all the other Subarus for this year. Does not, the trans lines do not run the same as every other Subaru, and I could not find anywhere online that showed a schematic or some kind of pictures or something how it went. And I scratched my head for literally 2 hours trying to figure out that puzzle before I finally just called it. I have a bunch of connections to make down here. You can see I got all my water connections. I got the brake booster connection to make. I don't have transmission lines on there either, so I got to take those lines off and redo that. I got to rebuild the whole back of the motor. I think we're going to throw the radiator in tonight, and then we're going to call it a night, and then I'll just come back in the morning and we'll finish this up. Because there's not more than a couple hours worth of work before this thing's ready to run. We're there. I'm just running out of steam. It was a really hard day with the RV overflowing the tank. It's raining, and I still have a bunch of a mess to clean up down there. I don't even know what I'm doing with that right now. I'm just frustrated. Man, the construction is getting really close to us right now. They're putting in sewers and digging up everything over there. This is hopefully my last day in the shop. You can see with this thing anyway. I got this thing in. I got all of, I got the power steering, all that stuff on, belts on, radiators in with zip ties for now. I'll probably come back and drill this out and put some self-tappers in there, but to get it running, good old American zip ties. Today, I'm working on making some transmission lines. Here's the old thing that I spent 2 hours trying to figure out yesterday. I've talked about this before, but for whatever reason, Outbacks and other Subarus run their lines over here to the firewall and then run the line back from the firewall. But this car ran it next to the exhaust, and I don't know how the routing went, and it was pissing me off. So I just went and bought some transmission line. You can see I got the first one run here. And then it's zip tied in here to the channel and going up and back, and then I'm gonna put the other one in here right now. Just plugging that in. And then there's another one right here. Checking stuff off the list. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna get this under here, and we're gonna start running that line. And then from there, I can make all the water connections, the vacuum for the brake booster, and I can start putting in the starter. And after the starter's in, I can work on the throttle cable And then we don't have that much left. Getting the ignition system on, getting it filled with oil and antifreeze, and we should be ready to rock and roll. We got the starter in, ground connected. You see I got all my hoses in and run now. One thing left over here. This is vacuum line for the brake system. Slide that on, get a clamp for that. Put that on, and we're pretty much done in here. Everything went together pretty easy. If you're wondering how I remember where all these bolts go and how I put everything back together, the answer is I don't. It's misorganized. You see this bucket of bolts here. The thing is I've taken 2 cars apart, so I have 2 bags with bolts here. So if I need a bolt, I just go looking for the right size that I'm gonna need, and then I just grab whatever I see, because I know that I'm gonna have extras. Normally, if I was doing this on a car, I would keep better track of everything, because you don't want to just have missing bolts. But I've torn apart this car and the donor car. It's been pretty much all summer, and with everything that I've been doing this summer, I just haven't been able to keep track of everything like I wanted to. But it's okay, it's all going together. It might take a little bit more time for me to rummage around and find the right bolt, but we're getting there. So now that I have all that done, I'm probably another hour in the working, and I should have a running car. All right, I just strapped the coil down, got a ground right here, there's another ground right here. I guess find a bolt for. And then it's just brackets and an air box. I already got oil in it, changed the oil filter. I gotta put some coolant in it yet. Let me look at the firing order for this, and it's pretty straightforward, but double check. Here we're filling it up. Got the air box on, everything's ready to go. I gotta fill this up, I gotta put the battery in, and then we're ready to go. I'll probably unplug the coil and just crank it over for like 10 or 15 seconds, let some oil pressure build in there, and then we'll plug that coil back in and hopefully she fires. We're all done, we're ready to crank it over. I got antifreeze in here, I got oil in here, got the battery hooked up. I'm missing a J-hook, I'll get over myself. What I want to do now is I want to unplug this coil, because this thing is running in a month or 2. I don't want to just start right up dry, so I'm going to crank it over for like 10 or 15 seconds. I'm going to let the oil pressure build inside of the engine. So that should give the engine enough time to build up the oil pressure, and we'll be ready to start it. Another thing I want to do is just make sure everything's working. I want to make sure it's cranking. I want to make sure there's no leaks. We're going to take our time. I got to check the transmission fluid. We got a little bit of time before she's roadworthy, but it's just as close as it's been in a long time. I hear compression. Starter's working. I don't know, I might have to adjust the throttle cable here, because it's a completely different engine. Dry under here, I don't see any fluid leaking at all. Back from a trip to the store. This clamp right here had failed, and it was late dripping out of the bottom, so I just went and bought a new clamp. And I couldn't find the studs for the battery hold down, so I just bought a couple of new studs. 2 J-hooks, pretty simple. Ooh, a little bit shorter. I was like, I don't need the tall ones. I don't need the tall ones.
The other one is in there.
No way.
I knew it. I had a feeling.
God,
I was like, earlier I was like, it's not down in there, is it?
well, that's fun. I'm glad you did that on camera, actually. 2 months working on this, and that's the one thing that I couldn't freaking find. That's really funny. Alright, well, I guess we have some spare J-hooks. I think it's safe to say I exhausted myself on this car. I've been working on it for a while now. Saga this has been. When I blew it up in May to right now, it's gonna have to run for 20-30 minutes. I gotta let all the, you see the air bubbles coming through, I gotta get all the air out of the system. I gotta check the transmission fluid, we gotta make sure that we're charging. She's alive.
Take her for a test drive.
We got her running, found a dirt trail because it's a Subaru. okay before I took it on a main road, you know?
Hi, doggo.
Yeah, she's got plenty of acceleration. Oh, that tire is almost flat.
Uh-oh.
Let's take it to Shell. I think they got an air pump.
Okay.